Cesar Estrada Chavez was born in Yuma, Arizona in 1927. Cesar has come from a family of recent immigrants, and he grew up with what was described as a typical extended Mexican family. The family spoke Spanish, and Cesar encountered his first injustice at 6 years old when his school didn't allow Spanish to be spoken, and at 10 years old, he sold his grandmother's estate before letting the Chavez family buy it, influencing Cesar's perspective on society. During the Great Depression, the Chavez family moved to California and never had another long-term home. Chavez dropped out of school in the 8th grade because he needed to work. Chavez started his family after leaving the military in 1948, and with his wife Helen, and they ended up having 8 kids. Chavez was short, outwardly shy, and like many laborers, suffered back pain. He was uncomfortable by his lack of formal education. Chavez was known for his actions, not his words. He considered his life a crusade against injustice. Chavez was a devout Catholic, which shaped his views, and was a pro-animal rights vegan. Chavez focused his movement on the ethnic identity of Mexican Americans and saw the parallels of treatment between Mexicans and African Americans, and adopted the nonviolent tactics taught by Martin Luther King and Gandhi. In San Jose, Cesar met Fred Ross and helped create a community service organization chapter, and also known as CSO. In 1953, Cesar helped Father Donald McDonald construct the first purpose-built church in Sal Cipuedes. McDonald opened Chavez up to the idea of nonviolent protest. While working for the CSO, Chavez traveled across California and organized a CSO which was largely worked with Mexican farm laborers. Chavez led many nonviolent protests against the firing of laborers and led the change of getting the government to extend the state pension to non-citizens who were permanent residents. In 1962, Chavez started to form a labor union for farm workers called National Farm Workers Association, NFWA, starting discreetly at first amid McCarthyism scares, referencing it as a movement instead of a trade union. NFWA became official. Their motto was Viva la Cause, long live the cause, and Chavez was the president. The organization quickly grew in membership, and by 1965 they were secure enough to do their first strike. The strike was against 2 companies for better working conditions, and after 4 days, the employers agreed to better wages. This increased Chavez's reputation in leftist activist circles across California. In 1965, Chavez helped lead the Delano grape strike. It was 400 square miles, so it was difficult to strike. Workers who joined the strike were met with threats and provocations from the employers, but Chavez told everyone to not go to violence and to take the high ground. The protests got monitored by police. The FBI launched an investigation into Chavez and the NFWA, and he was labeled a communist. As the strike started declining, Chavez marched 300 miles to the state capital of Sacramento, passing through dozens of farm communities. The march started with 50 people and ended with 8,000. Chavez's creation of National Farm Workers Association, now called United Farm Workers (UFW), inspired successful protests and the formation of unions in other parts of the country. In early 1970s, UFW led the Salad Bowl strike, the largest farm worker strike in U.S. history, and led to higher wages. Chavez was known for his 25-day spiritual fast to promote the principle of nonviolence. In the early 1960s, Chavez and UFW were noticeably anti-illegal immigrants. They thought their employers used undocumented workers as strike breakers and that they would undermine wages of Mexican Americans. But his views changed by 1973. The UFW opposed banning employers from hiring legal immigrants, and Chavez fought for an amnesty amendment for illegal immigrant minors who live with their parents. The UFW and Chavez helped to elect pro-union Jerry Brown to governor of California. Once elected, he stopped supporting UFW as much until they marched 110 miles from San Francisco to a winery and gained 15,000 people on the way. This convinced Governor Brown to sign the California Agricultural Labor Relations Act, ALRA, which established collective bargaining for farm workers. However, the act did not get funded properly and ended up failing mostly with no oversight. Chavez failed to pass Proposition 14 to allow union organizers to recruit farm workers on private property. After the failure of Prop 14, UFW suffered from disloyalty and lack of motivation. Chavez needed to change the organization into more of a movement. This involved restructuring the makeup. But until 1980, Chavez was a bargaining agent for 50,000 workers, but by mid-1980s, the UFW declined. In 1988, Chavez attempted another great boycott and fasted for 35 days and unfortunately lost 30 pounds and caused health problems that likely contributed to his death. Chavez died in 1993 of natural causes in Arizona at 66 years old. His wife donated his black Union jacket to the National Museum of American History. Chavez is buried in headquarters of UFW in California. He received full military honors at his funeral. Chavez is known to be an improbable idol in an era of charismatic speakers. Obama used the motto, "Si se puede," yes we can, in his campaign slogan. And in his 2012 campaign, he visited Chavez's grave and declared his union headquarters as national monument. Chavez is in the National Portrait Gallery and honored with a postage stamp. The American Friends Service Committee nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize 3 times. In 1973, Chavez won the Jefferson Award for Greatest Public Service benefiting the disadvantaged. In 1992, he was awarded the Pacem is Terris Award, a Catholic award for achievements in peace and justice. In 1994, he was posthumously presented the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Bill Clinton. In 2006, Governor Schwarzenegger inducted Chavez into the California Hall of Fame. Chavez will always be known for the work he did for farm laborers in California and establishing the identity of Mexican laborers in California and Arizona.